calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
All right, I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's gonna do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, what do you say, folks? Big Wednesday, April 13th. So good to see you today, and welcome to the Bill Press Show here on Free Speech TV, nationwide as well as worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Yes, indeed. Guess what? They finally called the results in Missouri of the primary weeks and weeks ago, and it was close on both sides. Donald Trump edging out Ted Cruz by 40.8 to 40.6, 0.2 percentage points. Same thing in the Democratic side. Hillary edging out Bernie Sanders 49.6, to 49.4. Sounds like a tie to me in both cases. Meanwhile, the focus, of course, has shifted to New York, where the big primary on April 19, only 6 days away. And in all the build-up, CNN town hall with Donald Trump and his family last night, another town hall with Ted Cruz and his family tonight, and then Thursday night, and I'll be there for it, the big debate between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton on CNN, after which Bernie is flying off to Rome to give a speech about income inequality. He'll be back in New York on Saturday, but a lot of people are saying, what is he doing, abandoning that important state, even for 2 days? Bernie, meanwhile, in New York, has said he is totally against fracking. Fracking should be outlawed. I know I can tell you that's a popular issue in New York State. Hillary Clinton says fracking can continue under certain conditions. And Paul Ryan yesterday saying, no way, no how will I ever be a candidate for president. And of course, nobody believes him. Give us a call to talk about all the above at 866-55-PRESS. Good to have you with us today on this Wednesday, April 13.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Yep, Donald Trump says that the deck is stacked against him and against Bernie. Maybe it'll be the Trump-Bernie ticket. They'll join forces. I don't know. See what Bernie says about that. Hey, hello, everybody. Whew. Not off to a good start this morning. Let's wake up here, Bill. Hello, everybody. Great to see you on a Wednesday, April 13. Here we go, the Bill Press Show. How about it? Ready to leap into another 3 hours with the day's news, our great guests, our big team here, the Bill Press team, and bringing it all to you on your local progressive talk radio station and bringing it all to you on Free Speech TV. Yes, indeed. Good to see you today. We've got a great lineup for you and lots and lots and lots to talk about. We're getting a lot closer to that New York primary and the Republicans rolling out their town halls one after the other on CNN, and all the excitement about the big debate between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton tomorrow night in Brooklyn on CNN, and I will be there. We got the whole team in place today, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson. Hello, guys.
Hey.
Good morning, Bill.
A tree grows in Brooklyn. Be there. I don't know.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
Yes, indeed.
Ray Rogers here. To take your calls, remember this is a two-way street. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what you think about it. Give us a call, 866-55-PRESS. That's the toll-free number. And you can also send us your comments. The new way, of course, on Twitter at BP Show, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. After all, Donald Trump tweets himself. Although he did say yesterday he has the ladies in the office do it for him. He just shouts out something, and they tweet it out immediately. Can you imagine that?
It's kind of amazing process.
What a scene. Yeah, right. You hear this voice bellowing through the office, right? Somebody's tweeting it out immediately. There should be a little, don't you think?
It could be a better filter.
A little better filter than that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ted Cruz took all of my Colorado delegates. Sad. Well, we got to tweet that.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Outrageous that we tweet that. And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the job as well. Let's see, how's the Capitol looking this morning? Pretty good.
Looking good this morning.
Looking good this morning. Thanks.
Scaffolding's coming down more and more. I love it.
We got it. Yes, indeed. Well, you know, we always say when it gets a little heated here in the political debate, it's just never like what it is in the House of Commons in England, where they really, every day is just like a knockdown, drag-out day. Well, now David Cameron, as we've talked, is in a little bit of hot water over the Panama Papers, because this is the guy who ran for prime minister saying we're going to have total transparency, we're going to fix all this financial kind of hanky-panky that was taking place in England. And then it turns out that on the Panama Papers, one of these shell companies, these phony companies used as a tax dodge in Panama, was set up and benefited from by David Cameron's father. So the question is, how much money is David Cameron got invested in Panama? And this Cameron insists that was his daddy's thing, not his, but it all came out in a debate in the House of Commons yesterday. And one member, Mr. Skinner here, Dennis Skinner, actually crossed the line, they felt. He called the prime minister Dodgy Dave, and he got thrown out for it because he refused to take it back. Here it is.
I didn't receive a proper answer then. Maybe Dodgy Dave will answer it now. And by the way...
I invite the honourable gentleman to withdraw that adjective that he used a moment ago. I think he knows the word beginning with D and ending in Y that he inappropriately used.
That is so
hilarious.
Great. That is right out of Saturday Night Live. You know? God, wouldn't you love if the debate tomorrow night were like that?
I was going to say, we've come pretty close.
Well, in the Republican debates.
Yeah, the Republican debates, we've
there
come
was
pretty
never
close.
as much control as there was there. There was nobody saying, order, order.
I was waiting for him to brag about the size of his penis the way Donald Trump did. We really upped the ante here.
Well, dodgy, Dave.
It's close.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. Anyhow, how great. What a lineup today. Congressman Earl Blumenauer from Oregon will be along, as well as former governor of Mississippi, Ronnie Musgrove. We'll also have David Jackson, of course, from USA Today, and about 35 or 40 reporters from different different publications.
Very busy today.
Yeah, we got the revolving door today. Yeah. So, and the big question now is, what the hell is Bernie Sanders doing going to Rome in the middle of the New York primary? Should he? But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. You know, Air France, the airline, they have flights that go to Iran. But here's the problem.
Wonderful airline.
Some of their employees don't want to go to Iran. Specifically, some of the gay members of the flight crew, they're saying they will no longer work on flights that go to Iran because, of course, in Iran,
I don't blame them.
You can be punished with death for being a homosexual in Iran. So there has been a petition floating around Air France, originated by one of the stewards by the name of Laurent M. And he says that he has an open letter to the French government and the CEO of Air France saying gay members of the flight crew, gay employees should not have to fly to Iran. And we will see how that goes about. But they're saying that they shouldn't have to work it, and they're not going to work it.
Good for them.
Yeah, I think so, too. Big news, big news. The very first United States senator has come out and endorsed Bernie Sanders. In the pages of the New York Times this morning, Senator Jeff Merkley came out and said he is endorsing Bernie Sanders. Spells out all the reasons why, talks about the great job that President Obama has done, and says that Bernie Sanders can carry the ball even further. Sounds like a book I recently read.
Yes, but buyer's remorse, of course. But that's good. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's a really big deal.
And by the way, Earl Blumenauer, who is a congressman from Oregon, will be along in the studio about an hour or so from now. We'll ask him if he's going to follow Jeff Merkley's lead.
Yeah, that'd be a good question.
Merkley's a very good guy, and Oregon is a big state.
Oh, yeah.
A very important state coming up.
Yeah.
So that could have a big influence on Bernie's chances in Oregon.
Tonight is the night that NBA fans will say farewell to Kobe Bryant. He is going to play his 1,281st game, and it will be his last as the Lakers take on the Utah Jazz in their final game of the regular season. Of course, the Lakers will not be going to the playoffs. They had a pretty terrible season. But just a couple of statistics on Kobe Bryant. 2 gold medals, 5 NBA titles, 18 times picked as an NBA All-Star. He ends his 20-year career at 25.1 points per game. He had 24 games where he scored 50 points or more.
That's huge.
And, of course, Kobe being Kobe, he had 14,255 missed shots. He is third on the list of all-time scorers behind Karl Malone and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 33,243 career points.
Yeah. He had the worst shooting percentage in the NBA this year, though.
He did. I am
the absolute
I am
worst.
Notoriously a Kobe Bryant hater. I think he's overrated.
I think he's great. I still think he is one of the greatest players of all time.
I'd put him in the top five Lakers of all time.
No, top 5.
Top 5 Lakers of all time. But farewell to Kobe Bryant. I mean, he certainly did change the game. I'm not a huge fan, but he changed the game. It's a big deal.
All right. So the big question today is, and it's interesting, a big story in Politico this morning about consternation inside the Bernie Sanders campaign. And I thought we would kick it around this morning and see what you think about it. And the big question is, should Bernie be taking 2 days out of the New York primary to go to Rome to give a speech on income inequality? You probably heard about this, He's been invited, not by the Pope himself. That was the initial impression, but Bernie quickly clarified it. Not by the Pope. He's been invited by one of the Vatican academies. There's a big conference on economy and particularly on income inequality, and he's been invited to give a talk on income inequality, which is a great honor, and it's certainly an issue on which Bernie, he's made that the central plank of his presidential campaign, and it's an issue which Pope Francis has made the central plank of his papacy. And often Bernie, a Jew, cites Pope Francis and other Catholic Church, of course, on this issue of income inequality. Here's Bernie at a recent rally.
I am a very great fan of the role that Pope Francis has been playing in talking about inequality in this world.
The problem, so great honor to be invited. The issue on which he is 100% out there in front, he's not making this up. He's been talking about income inequality for the last 35 or 40 years. But the timing could not be worse.
By the way, I just have to point out, right, you've got all these people running for president. The only Jewish person, as you mentioned, is you've got Ted Cruz, who's wearing his religion on his sleeve. You've got Donald Trump, whose favorite book is the Bible. You've got all these people out there proclaiming to be such great Christians, and the only one who gets an invitation from the Pope or from the Vatican is the Jewish guy.
Right. Yeah. Because it's on the issue, income inequality. So, again, great honor, a very important issue. Bernie's a leader on this issue. Right down the line with the Pope on this issue. But again, the timing couldn't be worse. So here's Bernie has accepted. He's driven a lot of his supporters crazy by accepting. And his plan is to leave New York right after the debate tomorrow night, overnight to Rome, give the speech, hop on not meet with the Pope, not planned. So there won't be that photo op, right? Some people thought he was only doing this so he can get the photo with the Pope that'll be on the front page of all the New York papers the next morning, which, by the way, would be nice.
Yeah.
But it ain't in the cards. So anyhow, hop on a plane and get back to New York sometime Saturday. But he's basically losing between the prep for the debate, the flight to Rome, the time in Rome, the flight back. He's basically losing 2 days out of the New York primary. And the New York primary is so important. It's a must-win for Hillary, and it's, I wouldn't say a must-win, but almost a must-win.
If there's a must-win left for Hillary Clinton, this is it.
Yeah, for Hillary and for Bernie.
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
You know, and I mean, Bernie, this whole primary will change dramatically if Bernie wins New York. And we've seen that Bernie does best when he really focuses on a state like he did in Wisconsin and goes boom, 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 nonstop like he did 5 debates last week. Not 5, but 5
rallies
events in a day.
Yeah.
He's been doing that in New York. He's been doing 5 events a day. When he really bears in on a state and focuses and moves around and gets these big crowds out and gets the excitement going and gets people out, that's when he wins. And there's so many delegates at stake in New York. And it is so critical. A lot of people are saying, he's making a big mistake. Go to Rome. Yeah, but go after the primary. Go to Rome. But go, like in September, after the convention. Don't do it now. What do you think? Bernie making a mistake by going to Rome? By the way, I think he is. If I didn't ask my advice would have been, great honor, Bernie, but turn it down for now. Focus on New York. Win New York. That's it. That's the most important thing. That's the number one goal. Stay there. Stay there. Stay there. Don't jet off to Rome. What do you think? 866-55-PRESS. Jim, out in Las Vegas. Hi, Jim.
Bill.
Yeah.
I think it's the greatest thing. It's a win-win situation.
You do? Why?
For Bernie. Because after Trump had argued about the Pope and Mr. Religion, Mr. Ted Cruz and Santorum and all telling the Pope to stay out of politics and don't deal with global warming, I think it's going to bring so many people to respect Bernie for more, to show what hypocrites Cruz and Trump would love to have been invited to talk with the Pope.
Yeah, but Jim, I want him to win New York.
Hey, all the Christians in New York that are undecided about who they're going to vote for and have the honor of being requested to go to the Vatican, oh, my God, it's going to turn heads.
You think so? All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'll tell you, Jim, from Las Vegas, Bernie is betting that Rome is going to deliver. 866-55-PRESS, you tell me, should Bernie be taking 2 days out to go to Rome? Wait, not Rome, New York. Yeah. Take 2 days out to go to Rome, New York. I'm there. 2 days out to go to Rome, Italia? Not so much. Let's talk about it. 866-55-PRESS.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour. I mean, in a sense, poor Bernie, if he goes, he's going to get criticism. If he doesn't go, he gets criticism. And it's maybe not fair to a second guess, but they had to really give this a lot of thought during the campaign. Should we take time out to do that, or should we really focus on what's at hand? Yeah. I say focus on New York. There'll be another time to go to Rome.
Sure. I can go anywhere.
I would say it's like I was asked whether or not he made a mistake in not going to AIPAC. I think he did the right thing in not going to AIPAC because they hate him anyhow, even though he is Jew.
Yeah, exactly. The only one in the race.
They don't like his foreign policy.
Yeah.
They think he'd be too critical of Israel. And I think he did the right thing there. I think he made a mistake in deciding to go to Rome. I think he's got more important things to do is stay in New York and just beat the hell out of New York and go to every place he can and pull off a win in New York, and this race changes overnight. Ike, here's our buddy Ike down in Charleston. Hello, Ike. What do you think?
Hey, good morning, Ray, Jamie, Cypriot, the Mighty Og, and, of course, Your Eminence.
You can kiss the ring next time I see you.
But I hope that's a ring. But, Bernie could have some people stand in for him, but I think the die's been cast in New York. I just want him to continue to pump and make as high a profile as he can. Not only the wage disparities here, but a lot of people in the Americas aren't even aware that really the Arab Spring was all over food shortages, lack of jobs, and inability for people to make a living over there for decades. So you know what? Him and the Pope, even the Pope's come out and said the greatest the greatest tool for social change is trade unions, and we need to push this because I'm telling you, 51% of Americans make $30,000 or less a year, and that is the issue.
Yes, by the way, and worldwide, if they make $3,000 a year. But no, that is the issue, and the Pope and Bernie are together on that issue, but I think Bernie's got a more important task right now, which is to win New York.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine,
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek. Newtown.
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 How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American. As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Minutes after the hour, want to move along, talk a little bit about Paul Ryan here, but first, on the issue of Bernie, should his transportation travel plans this weekend, after the debate Thursday night, be Rome, New York, or Rome, Italy? Bernie has chosen Rome, Italy, accepting an invitation from the Vatican to go there, great honor, and give a speech on income inequality, recognized as one of the strongest voices in the world on that issue. But my point is, he's got a more important priority right now, and he can go to the Vatican and talk income inequality anytime. Not now. Ron, out in Elgin, Illinois. Hey, Ron, how are you?
Good morning, folks. As long as Jim and Ike called in, I might as well join in also.
Yeah, come on in. Exactly.
Yeah, Bill, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's important to stay in New York, and as an original upstate New Yorker, where I was born anyway, in the Syracuse area, New York is vitally important. I mean, that's the understatement of the day.
Yeah.
But maybe we could Skype Bernie to Rome and see if he could participate in that. Because,
by the way, that's not a bad idea, Ron. Right?
Yeah.
You know, you can. Yeah, I mean, I did a hit on CNN last week on Skype from Santa Fe, New Mexico. So that he could do it that way. Or they do have video conferences, right?
Absolutely. Use today's technology to be in two places at one time.
That is the best answer I've heard. I'm so glad you called in, Ron. Good to hear from you again. Right. He could do that from New York.
Sure.
There are tons of facilities in New York.
Yeah.
You know, the business leaders use to conduct business, have board meetings, whatever, around the world.
No, it's totally doable.
At that conference, Bernie could appear by video, give a speech on income inequality. Now, why didn't they think of that, right? I think we're going to dispatch Ron from Elgin, Illinois, to the Bernie Sanders campaign. All right. Well, Bernie, it looks like, unless he changes his mind, he's on his way. By the way, there's an announcement from the campaign this morning that Bernie is going to be announcing a big endorsement this morning with a special news conference in New York. That may be Senator Jeff Merkley, but if so, that's already leaked out, right?
He's got an op-ed in the New York Times.
He's got it. So it seems to me must be somebody else.
I would think
it would also be somebody from New York.
It's got to be a New Yorker.
Got to be, right?
Right. But Jeff Merkley's got an op-ed in the New York Times, and he's appearing on Morning Joe this morning. So a news conference to announce that would be would be after the fact.
It seems like it would be a little,
we'll see what happens on that front. Meanwhile, on the political front, big news here in Washington yesterday was Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan having he called a special news conference yesterday afternoon. It wasn't announced until yesterday morning. And you know what's happening, of course, is all this talk about a brokered convention, that Donald Trump, who will be definitely out in front, but not quite at 1237, which is what he needs to secure the nomination, that there would be therefore the necessity for an open convention, at which point the scenario, everybody kind of points to the same scenario, that Donald Trump on the first ballot would get the most votes, but still not enough. So then they go to a second ballot, at which time all the Trump delegates and just about everybody are free to go anywhere. And that would be Ted Cruz's time at bat. And he would probably prevail on the second ballot, but still not get to 1237. So then they'd go to a third ballot. And nobody still gets to 1237. So then they open it up and they say, is there anybody here, up in the balcony, that would like to be president? And
anyone?
Everybody was speculating that at that point they would turn to Paul Ryan, the Speaker, and anoint him. After all, he was a vice presidential candidate 4 years ago, and anoint him as their presidential candidate. Paul Ryan finally decided yesterday he's going to put a stop to to that talk, and he says, if you didn't run in the primaries, you should not be the nominee. Here he is.
If no candidate has a majority on the first ballot, I believe that you should only choose from a person who has actually participated in the primary. Count me out.
Count me out. The famous words. By the way, Ted Cruz just said the same thing. If you haven't participated in the primaries, you should not be the presidential nominee. But people point out, well, come on, Paul. That's what you said about being Speaker. We remember. No, when John Boehner stepped down. No. And then first of all it was going to be Kevin McCarthy, and then Kevin McCarthy couldn't get the support. And so they said, well, it's got to be Paul Ryan. And he kept saying, no, I don't want it. Count me out. I don't want it.
The HuffPost Hill.
Guess where he is today?
Yeah. The HuffPost Hill, which is great, and you should read it every day. Their headline yesterday, just very simply put, Paul Ryan, I'm in.
So here's Paul Ryan saying, no. That Speaker talk.
I was asked by my colleagues to take a responsibility within Congress that I've already been serving in from the one that I had. That is entirely different than getting the nomination for President of the United States by your party without even running for the job.
You know what? Here's the question. You tell me. 866-55-PRESS. Do you believe Paul Ryan? I don't believe him for a second. He is running for president. He is. The more he says, count me out. The more he says, I would not take the job. The more he says, I don't want the job. The more I believe he is running a very clever, if cynical, campaign for president of the United States by appearing to be the one who doesn't want it. It's sort of like, he wants to be drafted, right? And you know what? It's going to get to the point where he'll say, like he did for Speaker, okay, if my country really needs me, if my party really needs me, then I guess I have to serve.
Part of the problem with this Paul Ryan thing is he'll say, oh, no, I'm not running. And then he'll do something that clearly indicates that he's at least considering running. Earlier or late last week, he put out this video that looked like more like a campaign ad than half the campaign ads that have been put out this cycle.
And what he has said is, okay, I don't like Donald Trump, where Donald Trump is taking the party. I don't like where he said this. I don't like where Ted Cruz is taking the party. We need to remind people what the Republican Party stands for, by the way, as if Paul Ryan's Republican Party is anything worth getting excited about. Yeah. I mean, his budget, disastrous budget, would cut every program that helped the middle class and the poor, privatize Social Security, get rid of Medicare, get rid of Medicaid. Terrible, horrible ideas. But at any rate, what he is saying is, Republican Party has its principles and its policies, and here's what they are, and we have to make sure that the American people believe that. And here's what I would run on. You're right, Peter. I mean, it was a presidential
it was
campaign.
A presidential ad.
Right.
There's just no other way to look at it.
Yeah.
So, I hear on one hand, I'm not running. But if you can't expect people to believe you when you are actively doing things that a person running for president would do.
So I think the rule that we've learned from this is, right, whatever Paul Ryan says, believe just the opposite. Yeah. All right. One final word on this before we move on to David Jackson. Let's say hello to Jason down in Asheville, North Carolina, where I am going to be Friday night at Avenue M. And Jason, I hope to see you there. How are you?
I wish I could be there, but it's my wife's birthday, so I unfortunately can't.
What better way to tell your spouse that you love her?
I can't think of a better place to celebrate your wife's birthday than at Avenue M, Jason. Huh?
Well, I agree, but
you could just stop by and for a drink and say hello. Here, we're going to put the pressure on you, Jason. Here.
Okay, well, that's a good point.
Okay, all right. So, what do you think?
Well, I feel like Speaker Ryan would be really stupid to say he's not running, and then gets a nomination, because I feel like the Democrats would just use that against him.
Oh, you bet.
As if to say, he doesn't even want to be president.
Yeah, it would be a fun campaign to run. Why should we vote for this guy? He doesn't want the job anyway. Good point, Jason. Okay, all right. I'll see you Friday night. No excuses. What a lame excuse, my wife's birthday. Right? All right. First thing, man, when I get there Friday night, I'm going to say, where's Jason? Here we go. David Jackson, we know where he is. Standing by USA Today. We'll be right back.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour, sometimes you wonder whether Donald Trump is running for or with the Republican Party or against the Republican Party. Yesterday, unleashing a barrage of attacks on Reince Priebus and the RNC, saying they are the deck is stacked against him. David Jackson, our good buddy from USA Today, been covering the Republican side of 2016 particularly, and taking a look at the Donald Trump campaign, writing about it yesterday, and joins us again on our newsline this morning. Hello, brother David.
Hello, Bill.
Yeah, what's going on with Trump claiming that the rules were lined up against him in Colorado? Legitimate complaint?
No, not really. I don't think he really knew the rules. I think what's going on is that you've got Ted Cruz, who hyper knows the rules. A lawyer, very organized. And Cruz has organized his campaign to go into these different states, study what the rules are, try to identify potential delegates and get them slotted in various committees and as delegates themselves. And that's what happened in Colorado, and I think it's going to happen in places like Wyoming. It's happened in Virginia. And then state by state, he's going in there and picking up 2 and 3 and 4. And in the case of Colorado, as many as 34 delegates, while Trump is coming out with nothing, and he's slowly closing the gap. And I think since Trump hired Paul Manafort, they've realized how far behind they are in the ground game in terms of delegates, and it's really got them concerned.
It's really kind of symptomatic of the Trump campaign that his kids aren't even registered
exactly,
to vote in New York, right?
Right. So, and he's I've been talking to some people that's concerned he could miss some deadlines in some states and lose some delegates that way, and it's a symptom of the fact Trump's always been proud of the small campaign he's run. He has run a very small, tight campaign, but it's really come back to haunt him now because I think you need to be organized in all 50 states, especially at this stage of the game. And he's
that's
not.
That is what it's all about, right? Which is knowing the rules in each state and how to get those delegates and lining up those delegates. And and clearly,
it's a little bit different than the Republican. The Democrats, the National Party has very specific rules, and you have to be a delegate at the Democratic convention. You have to really support that personal candidate. You can't be a ghost candidate. In the Republican Party, it's really state by state. Every state has its own rules. So we have a situation where there will be delegates who are pledged to vote for Trump on a first ballot, but really aren't Trump people. they support other candidates. So they will definitely defect on a subsequent ballot. So that's why it's so crucial for Trump to get that 1237 on the very first try, because he may very well lose support in subsequent ballots.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's that first ballot or bust for Donald Trump. Donald Trump pops up, of all places, in documents released by the Clinton Library. Yes, I saw your story on that.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. Well, it's typical investigative reporters who are looking into the life of Donald Trump, because while he's had a public life, there's not a lot of documentation to it. So they've been freedom of information requests of the Clinton Library. And yesterday, the Clinton Library released what they said was every document where Trump was mentioned. So you've got birthday greetings, you got invitations to White House events. There's a photo of Clinton and Trump at Trump Tower. There's a couple little squirrely little things. There's a supporter of then President Clinton's writing and saying, "Hey, I don't know if you know Donald Trump, but you ought to get to know him. You two are a lot alike. You have similar vision." There's an interview there there's an interview from, I think, 1999 where Clinton is asked about the fact that a lot of celebrities were thinking about running for president that year, including Donald Trump. And so Clinton is forced to respond to that, saying it's just part of the evolution of politics.
But none of that is surprising, in politics. It's just kind of funny. Now, I wanted to ask you.
I thought there'd be more stuff from Trump from the Clinton one, because supposedly but I think Trump and the Clintons got close after Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton moved to New York and became a senator.
Sure. I do have to ask you about this. In the last couple of days, Vice President Joe Biden was quoted as saying that, of course, he'd love to see a woman president. And President Obama yesterday said, "I want kids, to grow up and say, what? We've come all this long and we still haven't had a woman president." I mean, how can they still pretend that they are neutral in the Democratic primary?
Well, they really can't. I think they're sending a signal to Senator Sanders that I think that endorsement's coming. It's as clear as anything that they would really prefer to see Senator Clinton, and these last two events back that up. Someone followed up with Biden and asked him again if he really meant to say what he said, and he didn't back away from it at all. So I think it's obvious which way the administration is going on this, and it's just a matter of time before formal announcements come.
Yeah, I love Joe Biden, but right away, then he followed up by saying, "But the president and I are not going to make an endorsement," right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, sure. Right, 10-4, Joe. Well, I think there's concern about the tone of the race. Sanders and Clinton are going after pretty hot and heavy, and I think the people in the White House are pretty concerned at the way things are going, and I think they'd like to see some unanimity behind Clinton as soon as possible.
Yeah. Good.
But what do you think? I mean, you're close to this. Do you think Sanders has any chance whatsoever? Why do you think he's continuing to run? And why is he being so aggressive?
No, well, I don't. right up against the clock, you would ask a question like that, David.
Sorry about that.
Look, I think he's continuing to run because he believes in what he's, he believes in what he's saying. He believes that the Democratic Party really needs to shake up. And if he wins New York, David, I think he can still win this whole thing.
Yeah, so, interesting.
That's
going to be a great race.
That's worth another drink at some day soon. All right.
I'll be in New York next week. So
all right. Nice. Listen, I'll probably be there too. David Jackson. Right. Thanks, David. USAtoday.com.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit, highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors, shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands. Heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The National Journal, Karen Bruggerman, top of the next hour.
So when you go to Hillary Clinton's website right now and you click on a page, you try and go to a page that doesn't exist, they're actually having a little fun with her trouble getting through the turnstiles in the subway the other day. If you try and go to a page that doesn't exist, it says trying to get to where you want to go. This page isn't it, and it has a photo of her trying to figure out how to use her Metro card to try and get through the turnstile of the subway. So at least they're having a little fun with it.
Yeah. Oh, good.
So that's their error message now.
I'll say they had fun with it on Saturday Night Live.
Yes,
too.
they did. Yes, they did. They sure did.
Come down here. I can teach you how to use the subway. All right. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi!
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 broadcasting around the nation on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Ryan says, count me out. You can translate that as, I'm running for president. Hello, everybody. Just the opposite of whatever he says. Hey, great to see you today. Wednesday, April 13. It is The Bill Press Show. Here we are in our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., right in the heart of the action here. Actually, the action is kind of outside of Washington these days. But wherever it's happening, we've got it covered. We'll tell you what's going on. And let's make a deal. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what it all means to you. You know how to do so. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. On this Wednesday, April 13, Team Press here in place. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Yep.
Yes, indeed. Ray Rogers, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Keep those phones ringing. And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the job, keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV. And to help us through some of the biggest target now, after New York and maybe even before New York for some candidates, is California. Karen Bruggeman from National Journal, covering the 2016 campaign, has been focused on California and joins us in studio this morning to talk a little about it. Hi, Karen. Nice to see you.
Hello. Nice to be here.
Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely.
Jamie, I wanted to talk a little bit about John Kasich. So Kasich, I didn't pick this up, but during his town hall the other night, he said something really kind of weird, which Jimmy Fallon did not miss and talked about last night.
He actually attended a town hall here in New York last night where he was talking about kids in school, and he had something pretty interesting to say. Take a look.
One of the most important people you can find in the school is the janitor or the lunch lady, because those are the people that kids feel safe talking to and revealing their deepest, darkest kind of fears.
What?
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Nothing is more comforting than a school janitor who's like, tell me your darkest fears. Okay.
What is that?
What? Call the police if that happens.
It's like Groundskeeper Willie.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Isn't that kind of weird?
The last person you talk to,
or
with your deepest and darkest secrets, is the lunch lady or the janitor. That's so weird.
And for Kasich to blurt that out, right? I mean, where is that coming from?
Part
of his
in a
campaign?
not so joking way, a guy who has had a complicated relationship with teachers and teachers unions in Ohio.
I hadn't thought about that aspect of it.
That he says the most important people is the janitor.
Nothing against janitors.
Yeah, no, look, of course not.
And I remember in school, you could say hello to the janitor, and they kind of
tell them your deepest, darkest secrets.
Get around with the kids, maybe, but your deepest, darkest secrets.
Oh man,
this is strange for a presidential candidate to say, but we have heard stranger things from this year's cast of characters for sure.
Yeah.
So we'll talk California, we'll talk 2016, and Congressman Earl Blumenauer from Oregon joins us at the half hour. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. The FBI is offering a big cash reward if you have seen some Campbell's soup. But not just any Campbell soup, the Andy Warhol Campbell soup paintings that were hanging in a museum in Springfield, Missouri. There were 10 paintings of the Campbell soup paintings that Andy Warhol had done that someone has stolen, and the FBI is now offering $25,000 as a reward if you have any information that would lead to the recovery of those paintings.
Those paintings are worth $25 million.
They're worth a lot of money. They actually point that out. So, if you have any information and you're listening, this is your opportunity to do the right thing. Billy Hamilton of the Cincinnati Reds set a very interesting record in baseball earlier this week. The fastest home run trot. Now, after you hit a home run, you can take your time going around the bases, but he did not take his time going around the bases. He went full sprint and made it around the bases in 16.2 seconds. That is officially a record as the fastest that anybody has run around the bases.
Really?
On a home run trot. You see these guys all the time when they hit. They really just take their time with a slow jog.
You want to, and then wave to the crowd.
You know what that is? That's the overachiever.
Yes.
It's the person who always has their hands up in class. Like, you don't need to do that.
I feel like that's like sticking to all those people who think baseball players aren't that athletic, you know?
Yeah, right.
There's
that.
Let them go.
I mean, he really took off. He really took off. And last night was a big win for the San Antonio Spurs. They beat the Thunder in overtime, but this gives them the best NBA home record of all time.
Tied.
I'm getting there, Jamie. Shut up. 40-1. 40-1 is their record. That means they tie the 1985-1986 Boston Celtics
best team
as
ever.
the best home record of all time. They only lost one game this
Jamie,
season.
I'm glad you're here to keep things in perspective here, to tell the truth. By the way, the Spurs, that's the team that lost to the Warriors.
That's the
other night?
one loss that they have at home. The only loss that they have at home happened to the Warriors,
and
who
tonight,
has a chance to set the
tonight,
record
right?
tonight against the Grizzlies. They could set the record for the greatest, best record in basketball for basketball season ever.
All right. Go Warriors. Yes, indeed. So, Karen, you know, California, I'm a California voter.
Indeed.
Former chair of the California Democratic Party. But the focus right now, I mean, Bernie and Hillary will get to California, but right now the Republicans already have their eyes on California, right?
Yeah, which seems funny at first glance since that primary is not until June 7th. But in writing a little bit about this, one thing that quickly became clear is that even though they're not voting for almost 2 more months, they have early voting by mail, and those ballots go out in early May, which kind of gives you an incentive to get there earlier, because if people are actually going to be casting their ballots starting in a couple weeks, you don't want to wait until June 6th to show up, because it might be too late. Maybe up to 60% of people would have already voted by then. So you did see Ted Cruz in Southern California
Yeah, I was
Monday.
Surprised to see him in Anaheim, I think he was, or wherever.
Yeah, San Diego, Irvine.
Yeah, this week, that far ahead. Is it because California is so important, or because he thinks he doesn't have a chance in New York?
You know, it's probably a little bit of both. Trump does look like he's going to do really well in New York. All the polls have showed him over 50%, which is, and if he does that well, he'll win almost all the delegates, statewide anyways. But California people, I think, view that as the stopgap, kind of it has a big delegate haul at 172 delegates overall, as we've talked about.
Right.
And it's one of the final states that vote. So if Cruz it's probably not Kasich, but if Cruz doesn't do well there, that's probably, depending on where Trump's at in the delegate count, that'll be his last big opportunity to prevent Trump from getting to that the 1, 2, 3, 7 number.
Having just been in California last weekend in the San Francisco Bay Area, I can tell you, everybody I talk to who's in any way politically active or involved or interested is so excited, because this year it looks like the California primary, which is always the tail end, and usually counts for nothing because everything's already been decided, that this year California could be, in both parties, the deciding state.
Yeah, which is really wild. We haven't seen that in a long time. But I think it's great to have all the states have an opportunity to really cast significant
Yeah, so do
votes. And it surely is really exciting. And I think it's funny. Well, maybe us East Coast people think it's funny seeing California being important like that, but especially for Republicans, the headline of the story I wrote was the Republican battle for San Francisco, this idea that Republicans are going to have to compete for votes in this really blue state with a lot of really liberal areas is pretty interesting, but it's like what we're seeing in New York right now. You've seen the candidates go to the Bronx, Brooklyn. They've been in and out of Manhattan. It's probably going to be similar in California and the Bay Area and in L.A.
I must say, looking at California, it's hard for me to believe that either Donald Trump or Ted Cruz would have any appeal in California. But, I mean, we think of California as a big blue state, and it is, right? And I'm proud of that because I helped build it. But at the same time, there are some pockets of conservatism in California, even still Orange County, right? And in the Central Valley.
Yeah.
And, San Diego, although San Diego's got a big liberal, democratic, progressive base as well.
Look at Darrell Issa.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
California elected Darrell Issa.
Yeah, and I think even though there are fewer Republicans than Democrats, there are still, I would think, millions of registered Republicans. It's not a small number of votes that they're actually competing for. And I used to cover governor's races at National Journal, thinking back to the 2014 gubernatorial race. There was a state assemblyman named Tim Donnelly, who really gave kind of the more establishment pick, Neil Kashkari, a run for his money, and he was very conservative. But I think among Republican voters who do show up in primaries, there is a big conservative bloc, and some Republicans in California may be no less conservative than Republicans elsewhere. It's just that they're so vastly overshadowed by the number of Democrats and independents.
By a number of Democrats. I don't think there is today, I don't believe, I'd have to double check, there's not a statewide elected Republican.
There is not,
right?
That I know of.
Yeah, I'm just thinking through all the list of them.
Not right now. Yeah.
Right. The Republican Party has been in pretty bad shape in California for some time. So, but they've got 172 delegates, and we've seen too in other states, as in Wisconsin last week, as in Colorado rather, where Ted Cruz has been able to. I mean, that's his strength. His strength is identifying these delegates, rounding them up, getting them out to vote, and winning them. Where Donald Trump's approach is bluster and hope they turn up. Right?
Yes, yeah, and absolutely, and it does seem like Cruz is significantly outmaneuvering Trump at that game across the country, given that a lot of those delegates have already been selected, and it's too late to try to intervene or have any influence over the process. But I think in California, it's not the only state that does this, but it awards a lot of those delegates by congressional districts. So there are 53 districts in California, the most of any state, and they'll each get 3 delegates on the Republican side. So that's 159. So most of those delegates are coming district by district. So all the candidates are focusing on trying to pick who those delegates in those districts would be if they won. But first off, they have to win those districts. So that's why you might see Ted Cruz and John Kasich or Trump just going to all these different parts of the state to try to gin up support so that they can win by district in order to get the delegates in.
I was amused by you just referred to the headline of your piece, the Republican, in parentheses, battle for San Francisco. Knowing San Francisco pretty well, running a Republican campaign in San Francisco, or a campaign for a Republican in San Francisco, would be like running as a Republican in Washington, D.C. almost.
Yeah, no, it really would. And it's...
there would not be...
It'll be wild.
A lot of voters. It would be hard to get a big rally for San Francisco Republicans.
That's exactly true. And, that headline... I wouldn't be surprised if John Kasich made a stop there, because I think he's really going for those kind of more moderate
Kasich
votes.
would have some appeal.
Yeah. The San Francisco Republican Party chair had said that there seems to be some enthusiasm for Kasich. Oddly enough, among some Democrats, too.
You found a San Francisco Republican chair?
I did. They have a county party chair. She exists. She's a real person. And, at least we talked on the phone, so I think she's real. But, she said there seems to be enthusiasm for Kasich in the Bay Area. But there are only 36,000 registered Republicans in San Francisco. And granted, San Francisco maybe has, over 700,000 people?
Yeah.
So that is not many. So you're not going to be able to hold a rally there. I think you'll see a lot of that in Southern California. But in terms of making some stops, maybe, making some
I think that's very close to the ratio in Washington, D.C. Didn't we talked about that, Peter, recently? I think there are about 30,000 maybe Republicans in the entire city of Washington.
Yeah.
We're going to check that.
Yeah,
We can check it. And it's about the same 600, 700,000 people in the district.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of those Republicans are, most people in San Francisco, a lot of them are wealthy, but many of them, I was looking at the district breakout, a lot of them are kind of in the north, which is a pretty wealthy area, and then a little bit in the south. But the bottom line is they'd be hard to find. So you might be better off, those candidates that have volunteers who can make calls or knock doors, that would probably be the most efficient way to actually reach out to them. I don't know how efficient, rallies or things like that are going to be. And in that case, Trump might be at a little bit of a disadvantage.
So up until now, California has been, this has always been our complaint in California, that all we have been is the ATM for the national campaigns. Well, this year it'll be maybe the ATM, but also the ballot box to decide both Republican and perhaps even the Democratic primaries. Karen Bruggeman here with us from National Journal talking about the 2016. She's also author of the 2016 newsletter. How do you get that? You go to nationaljournal.com?
Yep. Right now, it's easiest to sign up if you're already a subscriber to National Journal, but there is a link on our site if that's the case.
Click on your site to
Yep.
nationaljournal.com for the 2016 newsletter. Governor's races don't get much attention. That's one area that Karen's been working on as well. We'll talk about that when we come back. Take your calls at 866-55-PRESS.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
This is The Bill Press Show.
Congressman Earl Blumenauer joins us at the half hour. It's now 26 minutes after the hour. With Karen Bruggeman here from the National Journal, author of their 2016 newsletter. So, Karen, lost in the shuffle, where people talk about the White House and about Senate races and House races, too many people forget about the importance of governor's races.
They do.
And state legislative races as well. There's some big ones coming up this year. Vermont's an open seat, right? Because the governor's running for Senate?
Actually, yeah, Governor Shumlin is not running for re-election.
He's
just
not
got
running
an
for re-election.
open seat.
Okay.
Lots of open seats, actually, across the map. But yeah, I used to cover governor's races before I covered the presidential race, so I'm very familiar with the things I pay attention to, not getting much attention from people, at least people in D.C., like the national press, because there's so much else going on. But I think a recent link to show how big of a deal some of these races will be what's going on in North Carolina, which has gotten a lot of attention nationally. You had Pat McCrory, the Republican governor there, who's up for re-election this fall, who was already looking vulnerable before this backlash over the bill about transgender use of bathrooms and preventing local cities and counties from passing their own non-discrimination ordinances against LGBT people. It's gotten a lot of national attention, but he actually has a very strong challenger. The Democratic Attorney General is running against him, and that was already going to be a competitive race before this happened. But that's just one example of a race that should be really interesting this year.
That will be a red-hot race for sure.
Yeah. Especially with North Carolina as a presidential battleground. And you do have Richard Burr, the senator, up for re-election, but I don't know how competitive his race will be. But North Carolina, I think, will be a big place in the fall.
And, a lot of people say the only way to stop that legislation or to reverse that legislation is to get rid of McCrory.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the focus in North Carolina, right?
Yep.
What's the other, big governor's race this year?
Yeah, I would kind of some of the big ones. You have a big race in Missouri. There's also a competitive Senate race there. But in Missouri, you have an open seat. Governor Jay Nixon, who's a Democrat, is termed out. He can't run for re-election. So you have a Democratic Attorney General as kind of the top Democrat. He's not really facing much opposition. He's just been cruising. And he's a real talented guy, Chris Koster, who people think has bigger ambitions. But then you have a crowded Republican field with about 5 of them running, 4 or 5, with some big, some talented folks running. But I think that's going to be one to see if Democrats can hold, because it's a red, conservative trending state.
Right. There were 29 Democratic governors when President Obama took office, and now there are 17. So Democrats have to work hard to get some of those governorships
This
back. Karen,
is the
thank you for
Bill
coming
Press
in.
Show.
Thanks so much for having me.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get fire adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine. Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American. As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, at 33 minutes after the hour, it is the Bill Press Show. Good to see you today. Again, we're coming to you live from our nation's capital and our studio right here in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. And we're brought to you today by the International Association of Iron Workers, the good men and women of the Iron Workers Union under President Eric Dean, their new president. The sky is the limit for them. Yes, indeed, literally. And you want to check out their good work, go to their website at www.ironworkers.org. Salute them for their good work. Thank them for the support of the program. Congress is back in session. And that brings to our studio today one of our favorite members of Congress, good friend of the program. Just haven't seen him in a while. From the great state of Oregon, the Congressman Earl Blumenauer. Hello, Congressman. Nice to see you.
Morning, Bill.
Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
I had the great pleasure of being in your state 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Did we treat you okay?
Yeah, it's looking good. Portland's a great town. And Powell's is the best bookstore in the world.
My people.
Huh? Yeah.
My constituent.
That's your district,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. The state was looking very good. Very good. The city is looking great. Now, we have a lot to talk about today, but your senator, one of your senators, is making big news this morning. Senator Jeff Merkley has announced his endorsement for Bernie Sanders. He has an op-ed in the New York Times this morning.
I noticed.
Are you joining the senator in supporting Senator Sanders?
Well, I've worked with Bernie for 20 years in the House and more recently some of it in the Senate. I like some of the things he's saying, but from my vantage point, Hillary Clinton is the best qualified of the 20 people that started out running for president. Nothing I've seen has changed that. I've had a chance to work with her as Secretary of State and as Senator. Frankly, she's been the choice of Democrats around the country. She's got more than 2 million more votes than Bernie, as well as delegates. But the main thing for me is that my vantage point, I think she's the most electable, and she would be the person who could actually be president from day one.
So you, the early endorsement for Hillary Clinton,
absolutely.
Do you think she'll win the Oregon primary?
I wouldn't roll the dice on that. As you've seen the ebb and flow, and I have a lot of people that I represent who as I do, like some of the things Bernie is saying. I think that's been constructive and healthy. We'll have a nice campaign in Oregon, and then we'll move on from there.
Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, where are they on an issue important to you, which is the legalization of marijuana?
Well, I've had
recreational marijuana.
I've had two conversations with Secretary Clinton about that, and I'm confident that she's actually if there's a Clinton administration, they'll continue and expand upon the policies of the Obama administration, which could have shut it down but didn't. She understands that it is...
In other words, letting states decide?
Let states decide. And at the federal level, it's absolutely insane that we force legal marijuana businesses, about 10,000 in 23 states around the country, either adult or medical marijuana, to be conducted on an all-cash basis. I've been working on this issue literally for 43 years, since I first voted to legalize marijuana in the Oregon legislature in 1973.
What? Boy, talk about being ahead of your time.
California beat us with medical marijuana by 2 years, but Oregon was the first state, as near as I can tell, to vote on full legalization. And in 1973, we were the first state to decriminalize the use of marijuana.
Now, I want to come back to what you're saying about cash only.
Yes. This is the only business in America that is forced to be conducted on a cash-only basis, because there's some edginess because it is a Schedule I controlled substance, which in itself is insane.
Yeah.
That banks have been very hesitant. Most of them will deny access to legitimate marijuana business if they know it.
So in Colorado or Oregon or Washington State today, all of those new...
The first day in Colorado when they were paying those millions of dollars of tax, they were doing it with shopping bags full of $20 bills. Now,
no kidding, I had no idea.
It's insane. It's if you care about money laundering, if you care about tax evasion, if you just care about theft. That horrific jailbreak in Southern California with 3 guys that got out.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The worst guy, the guy who had kidnapped the person and taken him out into California desert to torture him. He did so because that was a dispensary owner. And the thug was convinced that he was sitting on piles of cash.
Wow.
This is a very, no matter how you feel about marijuana, this is insane.
Yeah.
Anyway, Secretary Clinton and Bernie Sanders will be just fine. And nobody, I think, is going to be elected president who isn't.
Did you think Bernie's more likely to light up a joint than Hillary?
That's the thing I've learned about pot smokers is you never know who's smoking pot.
I guess
that's what I've learned about Bill Press is you never know what's coming at you.
The Schedule 1.
Get him on your show and ask him.
I will. The Schedule 1.
Yes.
That's another part of it too, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And this is
insane.
This is a direct consequence of Richard Nixon's war on drugs. Many people forget that he actually had a blue ribbon commission.
It started with him, not with Ronald Reagan, right?
Yes, advising him. Governor Schaefer of Pennsylvania, blue ribbon handpicked panel of experts who were studying it, and they were saying, you probably ought to be legalizing and decriminalizing. The report gave the information to Richard Nixon that he needed, but not the information he wanted. And he disregarded it, made it a Schedule I controlled substance like heroin and LSD, a higher classification than cocaine and methamphetamines. It's insane. And it's been a major portion of this inequitable system of justice, particularly falling hard on young African-American men.
And it's been there ever since.
Absolutely, ever since.
Right. There was a big story, California, my state, right? We are, I think, finally this year going to join the club.
Well, I'm coming down to campaign for it.
With an initiative to legalize recreational marijuana. What about the pot economy? What do you see
Well,
in Oregon, and
what we are seeing is that it has three very important effects. First of all, it's dragging it out of the shadows. You know, I've worked on this issue from coast to coast. I've yet to encounter anybody in states where it's illegal who thinks a 13-year-old student has a rougher time getting a joint than a six-pack of beer. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's already a pot economy. It's just that it's illegal. It fuels Mexican drug cartels. Being able to drag it out of the shadows, to regulate it and tax it, is going to help government coffers. And we're seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars flowing in Oregon, soon to be tens of millions. Second, what we are seeing is that there's the potential of reducing the pressure on government economies. And it's amazing, we cited or arrested over 600,000 people last year for marijuana-related offenses at a time when a strong majority of the American people think it should be legal. And then there is the actual activity in terms of the businesses. We're seeing millions of dollars being invested in new business. Many of these people I've had a chance to work with in California, in Oregon and elsewhere, want to be the gold standard.
Yeah.
They're treating their employees right. Their United Food and Commercial Workers are working to unionize them. It is, there's marijuana-related services, accounting, equipment. I think all the estimates I've seen is that within 5 years, it's going to have more economic impact than the NFL.
Whoa.
That's a stunning statement.
That is.
I mean, the NFL
Nationwide.
is printing money.
We're talking billions of dollars.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Man.
Shifting gears, I know, radically perhaps, but we have only half an hour with you, a lot to cover. Another area where Oregon has really led the nation is in the Death with Dignity statutes. I think you had the very first one in the nation. How's that working out?
Well, it's working the way it was intended. It gives citizens an opportunity to have control over those last weeks, months of life. What we found is that when they have to be certified in the last 6 months of life, 2 doctors, they can't be suffering from depression. We find that when they are given that prescription, which gives them the control of their fate, many people don't take it. Because what it does is it gives them a sense of control. So that if the pain and suffering,
charge, right?
Absolutely makes them feel that they have that choice. And so many of them, it gives them hope and encouragement, and they never use it. Those who do are able to have a dignified and less painful final few days on their own terms.
Yeah.
It runs parallel to another thing that I've been working on. This year, I finally got my so-called death panels, where the federal government will help pay for conversations with people to know what the conditions they face going forward, whether they're healthy or not. Again, another area of control and knowledge and information. We're watching a sea change in terms of how we deal with end of life and how we deal with death with dignity, and the American public are going to be the better for it.
And Oregon shows the way. Congressman Herb Blumenauer here at the Bill Press Show. Lots to talk about. You have a good question or a comment on any of the above? 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. Hang in there. Quick break. We'll be right back with a good congressman from Oregon.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
Taught him how to hit a baseball. Just like that. How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. At the half hour. Is it this half hour? Yes. At the top of the hour is what I meant to say. At the top of the hour. It is former governor of Mississippi, Congressman Ronnie Musgrove.
Wow.
Democratic governor. Yes, Democratic governor of Mississippi.
From Mississippi.
Here
those were the days.
They were the days, right. Right now visiting with Congressman Errol Blumenauer from the great state of Oregon. You know, another place where you are a pioneer, Congressman, is you are actually willing and brave enough to stand up and say, it's time we raise the gas tax. Why?
Well, we haven't raised the gas tax at the federal level for 24 years. During that time, the Highway Trust Fund is bumping towards insolvency. We have to back.
That's because cars are getting. Right.
Costs go up with inflation. Cars are getting more fuel efficient.
Right. So less tax
and
revenue.
Actually, people are driving less, but the roads and bridges are still deteriorating. I've proposed raising the gas tax. It's ironic. 7 red Republican states raised the gas tax last year.
At the state level,
At the state level.
Yeah. Huh.
And I was on the floor of the House, something as a Californian you will appreciate, with a cutout of Ronald Reagan, who in 1982, in his Thanksgiving Day address, called on Congress to raise the gas tax a nickel back when that was real money. And he and Tip O'Neill worked it out, and America was the better for it. We have...
Let's just stop you there for a second. Isn't that funny that these people today who worship Ronald Reagan, right, would never agree to half of what Ronald Reagan did?
Absolutely. You saw it up close and personal. He was pragmatic.
Yeah.
He did a number of things that some of us would...
look at amnesty, which he did as president, right, for 5 million people. I mean, that word is anathema today.
Yeah.
Right?
Selective memory.
Indeed. What is your proposal for raising the gas tax?
Well,
how much and for what?
Well, I want to do three things. One is I want to raise the gas tax, and I proposed a 15-cent increase phased in over 3 years. Second, I want to index the gas tax so that going forward it accounts for inflation. And third, I want to abolish the gas tax and replace it with something we've been experimenting on in Oregon and you're starting in California, and that's a road user charge. Because the fuel efficiency is going to continue to increase with plug-in hybrids, hybrid cars, electric cars. There's no relationship between gallons of fuel consumed and road use. Bill, I think we need to focus.
How do you measure that?
Well, I have on my car a transponder that keeps track of how far I go. I'm participating in the pilot project in Oregon.
Oh, wow.
How far I go, and then I'm charged based on the mileage, a cent per mile. This is something that we've been experimenting for 10 years in Oregon. It is technologically possible. Right now, you could do this with...
It's just basically a chip in every car, right?
Yep. And right now, the fleets of trucks could do this. Probably 80% of American trucking industry could do this in 3 months. It's more accurate and allow a lot of other things to be done. You can have a uniform method of paying that will pay for parking, pay for bike share, car share, transit. It'll let you know where the nearest parking place is and how much it'll cost. It'll transform how we deal with transportation. About the same time, we start dealing with self-driving cars. This is going to be a revolution, and we need to get on it.
And the revenue from this gas tax would go to repairing the roads.
To the Highway Trust Fund, which can be used for roads, bridges. 20% of it's dedicated for transit, which is very important. It's interesting, Bill, that people have turned a blind eye to the deteriorating state of American infrastructure. The Flint, Michigan episode calls out the fact that what's under those deteriorating roads is often in worse shape than the roads themselves. Almost 2 million miles of pipe for water and sewer, most of it reaching or past its useful life. Infrastructure is the fastest way to put millions of people to work at family wage jobs in every community across the country, and we'll be better for it.
Just had an email from a very good friend who's in China right now with his family, and he was saying, he's a California businessman, that you would not believe what China is doing for their infrastructure today. They know how important it is. They're serious. They are building, rebuilding, and leaving us in the dust, someday.
4 times as much as we spend on a percentage basis of GDP.
Really? Yeah. Congressman, out of time, but not out of ideas. Man, you are full of them and out in front on many different issues. Thank you so much for coming in today. Thanks for your great work in Congress on behalf of all the American people.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.
See you again soon, Congressman Errol Blumenauer from Oregon's 3rd Congressional District. We'll be right back. I'll tell you what the president's up to today.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, we got so much to cover that 2 hours is not enough. So, of course, we're going to move into hour number 3 and hope you can stay with us either on Free Speech TV at 5 Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific, or right away on our video stream, TawkrTV. So jump over there if you want to stay with us to see and to meet former Mississippi Governor Ronnie Musgrove here in studio with us, after which we'll be joined by Annie Linsky, who is the national political reporter for the Boston Globe. Lots of good stuff coming up in hour number 3, so hang right in there. Stay with us. We'll see you then.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
And what's the president doing today, Peter?
Well, Bill, I am glad that you asked. Today, the president and vice president will receive the presidential daily briefing at 10 a.m. And then at 12:30, they have lunch together. And today is the big day, the science fair. 2:15 p.m. The president will welcome students with their science fair project. So that's going to take about 45 minutes, and then he's going to deliver remarks to the science fair around 3 o'clock, and then a meeting of the National Security Council at 3:50, and then a statement to the pool at 5:30 from the CIA headquarters in Langley.
We thank you, Mr.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Paul Ryan says, no way, no way, no way would I accept the Republican nomination for President of the United States. My translation is, I'm running for president. You bet. I don't believe a word he says. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? Here we go. Wednesday, April 13. Great to see you today. Thank you for joining us. It's the Bill Press Show, and we may be located here in Washington, D.C., but actually, we're right there alongside of you, wherever you are in this great land of ours. If you're listening on the radio, we're there with you on your local Progressive Talk radio station, or one of those two great radio apps, iHeartRadio or TuneIn. If you're watching on television, we're there with you on Free Speech TV as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And on this Wednesday, April 13, we are so pleased to welcome back to the studio a great friend of ours from the state of Mississippi, former Governor Ronnie Musgrove. Governor, so good to see you.
Bill, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome back.
Thank
indeed.
you.
And you know our team here, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Yes, indeed.
Good morning. It's the first team.
The first team.
I have to say, by the way, the last time
South Carolina Governor.
Yes, indeed.
I just want you to know.
The last time we had the governor, it was just before football season, and we were talking about Alabama, because I'm an Alabama guy, and I was a little sketchy. I didn't feel so great about our chances this season. He said, never count out Nick Saban. And look what happened. Alabama won a national championship. So listen to what he says. He knows what he's talking about.
And the only blemish on their schedule was Ole Miss. My alma mater.
That's fair.
He knew I was going to get that in.
I knew you were going to get that in. That's all right.
I will say this much for it on behalf of Ole Miss. We didn't want to play Alabama again in the season, even though we beat them. But I really don't think Alabama wanted to play us again either. Both teams were very good this year.
All right. Ray Rogers here to take your calls. 866-55-PRESS. Oh.
I knew Jenny would come in.
And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, is on the job as well. So, Governor, you've been around politics a long time, and you've seen some lively debates. But, nothing, and this year we've certainly seen some lively debates, but nothing we have in this country compares to what it's like in the House of Commons when they get right into it. Now David Cameron's got this little problem over these Panama Papers because his daddy had one of these shell companies in Panama. And so he's been getting some flack in England. He tried to explain himself in the House of Commons yesterday, and one of the other members, MP, his last name is Skinner.
Dennis Skinner.
Dennis Skinner actually called him Dodgy Dave, which he got thrown out for using that term, and he refused to back down on anyhow. Here's that little exchange. Just listen to this.
I didn't receive a proper answer then. Maybe Dodgy Dave will answer it now. And by the way...
Order. I invite the honourable gentleman to withdraw that adjective that he used a moment ago. I think he knows the word beginning with D and ending in Y that he inappropriately used.
Order.
Isn't that amazing? It's so much fun.
It is one of the things that everyone who loves politics needs to either watch or be there.
Yep.
Yeah. I had the privilege of sitting in the House of Commons, listening to question and answer, and it was one of the highlights of my career.
Full contact politics.
Order. But the guy refused to withdraw the term, so Dodgy Dave got his stuff. Lots to talk about here with the good governor. We'll get right into that. Annie Linsky from the Boston Globe joins us at the half hour. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Yes, indeed. How about this for discovery? Just off the coast of Alaska, there were 2 shipping containers labeled contains guided missile found floating in the waters near the island community of Craig, that is in southeast Alaska. Alaskan state troopers got these containers, and they called in the bomb unit to take a look. They opened them up, and they were empty. So they have reported these to the U.S. military authorities because they're not sure if they were used or if it was just a shipping container or what it is, but there is a mystery off the coast of Alaska with 2 guided missile shipping containers found floating. A little sketchy.
Hard to believe the military could be so careless as to lose 2 of those containers.
You would think. Yeah, you would think. One internet commenter found this out, that if you take Pink Floyd's album, Dark Side of the Moon, and sync it, not with The Wizard of Oz, which is what people have been doing for years, but sync it with Star Wars The Force Awakens, there are some very curious similarities. Now, for years, right, this has been the thing. If you start Dark Side of the Moon the same time that you start Wizard of Oz, the music sort of syncs up with what's happening in the movie. But this commenter found, this guy from the website Consequence of Sound, found a lot of different things in the Star Wars movie. So when Poe wakes up in Kylo Ren's torture chamber, the lyrics of The Great Gig in the Sky go, "I'm not afraid of dying, any time will do." And as the song, there's a scream in the song that happens right as Poe opens his mouth. So it fits right in with the movie. It's very sort of creepy. There are 5 or 6 other examples. This is sort of a stretch.
I'm just saying.
This is sort of a stretch.
Some people have too much time on their hands.
Some people have too much. Some people have too much weed to smoke. It's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a stretch.
Anybody who would have
but it's curious.
time to take all those CDs and try to fit them up with movies. I mean, yeah. Okay.
All I will simply agree with on that is it's one of the greatest albums ever made.
Oh, he's right about that. Yeah, you are absolutely right about that. And
leave it alone.
The House Bill 2 in North Carolina has more and more opponents. This time they are fighting the bill with craft beer. The 2 brewing companies, both based in North Carolina, Mystery Brewing Company and Ponysaurus Brewing Company in Durham, North Carolina, have collaborated on a beer called Don't Be Mean to People, a Golden Rule. It is a Saison-style beer, and they are going to distribute it all throughout the state so that people can buy it and take a stand and say, we are against this House bill legislation. We don't like this. And they're going to donate some of the sales of these beers to some of the LGBT community in North Carolina.
Hey,
love that.
Yeah, more than one way to run a political
Keep getting
campaign.
creative ways to fight it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And that's where we want to start, Governor, because there's this they're calling it the hate wave, not the heat wave in the South. It's not limited to North Carolina, nor Georgia, nor Missouri, right? But Mississippi's got a bill, HB 1523. Where is it now?
Unfortunately, Bill, it's been signed into law by Governor Bryan.
Whoa, I didn't realize already signed.
It goes into effect on July 1st of this year. And while North Carolina and Georgia have gotten most all of the national press because of the large businesses there, House Bill 1523 in Mississippi is more onerous than any one of the bills in either North Carolina or Georgia. For people who love Mississippi, it's embarrassing for those of us who feel like that every citizen is entitled to the rights and privileges of living there and under the terms of the law. And House Bill 1523 really abrogates that for some of our citizens.
So what was the crisis that brought about this law? I mean, what problem does it solve?
None. There was no crisis. It was simply the leadership, the Republican leadership in Mississippi. The bill is authored by the Speaker of the House. And what it does is it takes conduct that is legal, as the Supreme Court of the United States has said this is constitutional. In Mississippi, under House Bill 1523, if you have a sincere religious belief that marriage is between one man and one woman, then you can lodge a number of objections to get people fired, not hired, or to control their conduct.
So you could be fired in Mississippi just for happen to be gay or lesbian?
Absolutely. It is just if someone says that conduct violates my sincerely held religious belief, and it is a terrible day for Mississippi, for the country, but particularly for the state. We believe it does not pass muster under the federal Constitution and the holdings of the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
But nonetheless, the signal that it sends is a terrible signal. I feel like if you look at the economic impact that it's going to negatively have on business and industry locating in Mississippi, who desperately, by the way, needs business and industry and jobs to locate in Mississippi. The tourism industry, which is about a $6 billion industry responsible for 115,000 jobs, 67% of the tourists come from out of state into conventions, different places in Mississippi. If it's only impacted 10% by this bill, then you're looking at a $600 million impact to our state and approximately 10,000 jobs lost just in the tourism industry.
Yeah. Now, particularly in Georgia, as you know, Governor Nathan Deal did not sign the legislation because there was such opposition from the business community, starting with Coca-Cola and the big names in Atlanta. And now in North Carolina, there have been over 100 businesses, Google, PayPal, some of the others, Peter, Twitter.
Twitter
Uber,
said they're good.
And some of the big banks, Wells Fargo, Citibank, have asked the governor to rescind this legislation. Is there movement in the business community in Mississippi?
The Mississippi Economic Council and the Manufacturers Association came to the table late and said they were opposed to it, but the bill had already been sent to the governor.
Yeah.
The governor signed it. In North Carolina and Georgia, those big businesses are already located there, or the state is about to host some national event. Mississippi is not in that situation, and with the passage of bills like House Bill 1523, they'll never come to Mississippi.
That's what's so sad,
They'll
right?
never get there.
And you have this issue where you need these jobs, you need these companies coming in and investing in the state, and it's almost like these outdated personal beliefs are getting in the way of that. It's
right.
But not only do you have big businesses who obviously take a very strong stand, but they have stores, outlets, and other things in Mississippi. There are a lot of other businesses that have very strong socially conscious mission statements that are also affected and will make some decisions about whether they will attend conferences, conventions, whether they will hold meetings. There are all kinds of, I think, negative repercussions that will happen in Mississippi as a result.
Now, in North Carolina, it all started because Charlotte passed an anti-discrimination measure saying you cannot discriminate against the LGBT Americans. And then in North Carolina, the state legislature says, no, we're going to take that right away from, no city can do this, right? It's got to be state standard, and the state standard does not protect LGBT people. So in Mississippi, do cities have the right to pass an anti-discrimination measure under this measure?
Oh, no.
No, they can't.
No. This bill takes precedence. In fact, it says in the language of the bill, it takes precedence, which is an interesting concept that the Republican leadership has always said local control is better.
Right.
And now they're overriding the local decision of local leaders.
And is there the bathroom measure as part of it as well?
It is not. Although
implied, I'm sure.
It certainly can be. The difficult thing about this bill is the implementation of it. If, say, a school district has a teacher that's LGBT and someone objects or asks that person be fired because of a sincerely held religious belief, or if the church wants that, or if the preacher wants that, then the school district is placed in a very difficult situation because the teacher could be an excellent teacher, and on the other hand, they face expenses and attorney fees, compensatory damages if they don't comply with the judge's order.
So what they're really saying is, I love that phrase, sincerely held religious beliefs. So, I mean, let's assume that they are sincerely believed and sincerely held and religious. But they're really saying that trumps the Constitution of the United States.
That's what House Bill 1523 says. And of course, those of us who believe that the U.S. Constitution means something know that that's not what we need to be doing. Even if you're doing it for a political statement, this is going way too far. They could simply say that in a resolution expressing the intent or the belief of the Senate or the House, but to go this far is to have far-reaching negative impact for the state. Our political leaders talk all the time. I talked about when I was governor of bringing jobs to Mississippi, creating jobs so that our children, grandchildren can stay in the state and not have to go elsewhere. And this right here is literally closing the door on job opportunities for young people all across Mississippi. So the negative impact for the next 2, 5, 10 years could be dramatic.
The hate wave sweeping the South, striking Mississippi. A former governor of Mississippi, Ronnie Musgrove, here with us to talk about it. He is, of course, not just former governor, but a founding member of the Musgrove Smith law firm. You have a question or a comment? We've been talking a lot about this issue the last couple of days. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
You taught him how to hit a baseball.
Just like that. Say hi.
How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour. Annie Linsky from the Boston Globe coming up in the next half hour right now. Here with Governor Ronnie Musgrove from Mississippi. Governor, in North Carolina, there was this question. I want to ask you whether it's true with HB 1523, now, sadly, the law of the land in Mississippi. If a state discriminates like that, couldn't they lose some federal dollars that go to the state, or might they?
I absolutely believe that the dollars are in question, and we've not heard from the feds yet. Of course, the bill doesn't go into effect to July 1.
July, yeah.
And so there may be some things that would happen between now and July 1st, but I think it violates the very premise on which you take federal dollars. And in Mississippi, if we lose federal education dollars, we're talking about billions of dollars, not to mention health care and other issues where federal dollars really mean a lot in the state of Mississippi.
And the response of the governor to this is?
Just we've got Mississippi has the right to do what it needs to do to protect its citizens. It's just
simple as that, huh? Yeah.
Are there religious leaders that have come forward and said this is not the true practice of our faith?
Yes, there have been religious leaders that have done so, but there have been religious leaders also of certain denominations that have pushed the bill.
Yeah, that's what really drives me crazy. They're preaching hate in the name of Jesus, and it's wrong. Governor Ronnie Musgrove, it's always good to see you.
Thank you, Bill Press.
This
great to be
is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get fire adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine.
Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek. Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. Enough. Enough.
Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being. For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Help keep all the presidential candidates straight with your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
At 33 minutes now after the hour, it is The Bill Press Show. Good to have you with us. We are live in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. But we're also live with you wherever you happen to be. Coast to coast on the radio and on television. And I want to remind all of our good friends down in Asheville, North Carolina. Friday is the big night in Asheville. Yes, at Avenue M. I'll be there 6 to 8 p.m. Talking about HB2 down in Asheville. Talking about how we're going to defeat Pat McGrory if we don't impeach him first. And we want everybody, all of our good friends from Asheville on 880 The Revolution to come on out and say hello. And then Saturday, Stephanie Miller and John Fugelsang will be there. So this is the big progressives taking over Asheville this weekend for 880 The Revolution. Again, my turn Friday night. Come on out at Avenue M, and then get your. That's free. Just show up. We'll have a good time.
I tell you to bring me back some of the great craft beer that Asheville has, but I don't want you to spend any more money in the States, since because of the HB2 thing. I feel bad. Normally, I'd have you bring me back some beers.
Plus, I'm carry-on. I can't bring it on the plane, right? So, and I'm not going to check my luggage for you.
Not for me and my beers and my drinking habit?
All right. Friday night, Avenue M. We'll see you there. We'll have a few craft beers together. Yeah, indeed. 2016 is certainly preoccupying us, particularly building up now to the big primary in New York State, which is next Tuesday. Annie Linsky, covering 2016 National Political Report for Boston Globe, in studio with us. Hi, Annie. How you doing?
Hi. Good.
Are you personally responsible for that fake front page about Donald Trump?
Well, I have to say I was actually even on vacation, so I was the wrong department. It was the editorial department, but even if it had been the news, I was out of the country.
What was the response to it?
Oh, I mean, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. I think there was some concern in the newsroom that so many people misinterpreted it, and believed it was the real
The actual front page, yeah.
You know, and I don't know that, you know, it seemed fairly obvious to me that it wasn't. But I guess if you're reading very, very quickly and you're not used to reading the Boston Globe, which, you know, everybody should be.
Half of the outrage I saw were from people who misunderstood.
Yeah.
And thought that this was the actual front page of the newspaper.
Yeah.
And, you know,
It's like the old War of the Worlds thing, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
But it made a good
People
point. I mean,
believed
it made a good point. I'm glad that they did it. It was a point that needed to be made, and it was in a different way than anybody else has made it. So
yeah, and the editorial page writer who was responsible for it, you know, she's a Pulitzer Prize winner for the Globe. She won a Pulitzer for writing about income inequality, and you know, she's really young and very ambitious and smart, and I think that she just was being a little edgy, and you know, let's applaud that from me, a 200-year-old institution.
Totally.
Yeah. Of course, Drudge says it's just part of the media's anti-Trump campaign.
Oh goodness! I mean, how can the media be accused of being anti-Trump? The media is essentially his super PAC. I mean, I feel like that's pretty clear. And without the media, it's hard to see what his campaign would be.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, the people have calculated how much free media he's received compared to any other candidate, and it's just overwhelming.
Yeah.
I mean, we collectively, right?
Yeah.
Right, have created this
and
monster.
Although I will say I do get a little annoyed when Hillary Clinton makes that point, or her surrogates do, because she could also be getting a similar amount of media if she would call in to some of these shows, or if she would talk to reporters, which she doesn't do. I mean, Donald Trump, you know, he calls us all the time.
Yeah.
You know, all the time. You know, it's not impossible to get him on the phone. And with Hillary Clinton, you know, she's just extraordinarily selective. And with that selectivity, you're going to get less media exposure. So I kind of bristle a little bit when her people make that point.
All right, New York.
Yeah, coming up.
Bernie Sanders gets a big endorsement today from Oregon Senator Jeff Merkley.
Yeah.
First U.S. senator to endorse him.
I know. It's amazing.
Now, what effect or impact an endorsement of a senator from Oregon will have on a New York primary. But does Bernie have a shot in New York?
What's really hard for Sanders in New York is the same thing that, you know, we've been seeing throughout the entire primary season, and that's the large number of African-American voters in New York City who just have not connected with Sanders' message. I mean, speaking in broad brushes, when you're seeing, you know, the 70%, 80% of African-Americans voting for Clinton in the exit polls, you can really just look at a state like New York and look at the demographics and just know what the results, you can almost just guess what the results are going to be. And it's a fairly educated guess. I mean, you know, he'll likely split the white vote. He seems to be doing a little better with the white vote. You know, over time, his percentage of the white vote has increased. But he just hasn't made inroads with the African-American community. He hasn't been able to connect to them.
Got 31% in Wisconsin, which is a lot better than he did earlier, in the earlier contest.
When 31% is good, you're still in a bad situation.
But, you know, doesn't that really not tell the full story? He's getting 82% of young people.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I looked, young people were not all white.
That's right. I think that the one area...
I mean, let's be honest.
One area that
at least half of them are women, and probably 25% of them or more are Latino or African American.
Well, he's not having the same trouble with the Latino community. It's really that African American community.
But even
and
among
older
young
voters,
people, he's not having trouble with African Americans.
I have not seen that split in exit polls. I know that anecdotally, I talked to. In fact, I just spoke to a class in Maryland.
Well, if it's 82, but let's just 82%. 18% are not all the blacks.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to see the data on that, because it is stunning how predictable these states have become. Except, I will say, you know, Washington State, that the margins that he got there, I thought were much higher than expected, and did make me rethink whether there was a path for him.
And how about Hawaii, which is the most diverse state in the nation, and he won it by 50%?
Right, but it's not diversity. It's just this block of African Americans that and it's on him. He has to be able to connect with this community.
So you're saying that Asians and don't count as much as Black Americans in terms of diversity? You have to be Black to be diverse?
I'm saying that if you're Bernie Sanders and you want the nomination, the community that you need to connect with right now are African Americans, and he's been able to connect with Asians. He's been able to connect with Hispanics, but he hasn't. It's what stands out and what is the stumbling block for him is this African American community.
And why can't Hillary connect with young people?
That's a fantastic question, and it's one her campaign is wrangling over.
Yeah, right.
And
I also think the media misses. Okay, I'm a Sanders supporter. I'm not trying to be too rough on you, but they're all talking about Bernie doesn't connect with African American. She doesn't connect with working class Americans. She doesn't connect with young people. And they got to be thinking about that.
But not in the same margins. I mean, if she was not connecting with whites and in the same margins that Sanders was not connecting with.
If she's only getting 18% of young people, that's a problem.
It's a problem for the Democratic Party. It's not a problem.
It's a problem for her in the general.
Look at the other side of that is I'm not going to these rallies and these events. When I go to these rallies and events and talk to young people, they are saying they will vote for Hillary in November. They're saying we support Bernie. We want to vote for Bernie in November. But in November, it'll be okay to vote for Clinton. And so even right now in this moment, which is like the most heated moment in the campaign so far, where Sanders and Clinton are actually making some kind of personal attacks against each other. I mean, we're talking about the qualification. So even now, young people are still saying, I'll vote for Hillary. And at this point in 2008, they weren't saying, there wasn't that kind of crossover. So I don't see the Democratic Party, they need to figure it out with young people, absolutely. But I don't see it cracking apart, especially look at the Republicans.
A lot of it will depend, too, on who the nominee is going to be. I mean, look, a party's got to be united. I'm no hesitation to support Hillary if she's a nominee. And anybody supporting Bernie Sanders should be supporting Hillary. But it's not going to be automatic. It's not just because she's the only one there, it doesn't mean that everybody's going to be excited about her, because let's face it, there is an enthusiasm problem with Hillary Clinton. She's had it from the beginning.
There is.
And you can't blame Bernie Sanders. That comes from her.
I agree with that. I think you definitely see that. And like her rallies versus his rallies, his are just fun. Like there's a sense of like fun and joy and big ideas. And you like to think sometimes that the country will rally around some big ideas. And her campaign is not about big ideas. Her campaign is about incremental change. And that's just a much harder thing to really like
excited about.
Yeah, incremental change and inevitability. Okay, she's going to be the nominee. Okay.
And when you look at the Republican side, I think for most Democrats, there's a fear, and particularly when you saw somebody like Paul Ryan, who might have had a better chance against Hillary than, say, a Cruz or a Trump, saying he's not going to get into the race.
Did Bernie make a mistake by deciding to go to Rome?
I don't think so. I think it's a great move on his part. I mean, I think that they realize that New York will be real tough for them to win. They're flying a press charter over there. Bernie Sanders is very accessible to the press. Yeah.
There's a press charter going to Rome?
That's amazing.
Yep. I fought very hard to try to do that trip.
God.
Fortunately, my passport is expired, and the Schengen.
You didn't expect to have to fly to the Vatican to cover the presidential election this year.
And the Schengen countries want 6 months.
Do you think it'll help him politically?
I think it will. I think it only increases his stature. And I think when you look down the road, if he's not the nominee, what is next for him? The idea that the Pope is sort of, I don't want to say blessing, but it's certainly making some supportive moves towards this progressive wing of the party. And this is a Pope who has had no problem getting involved in the 2016 election, I might add. And for him to be meeting with Sanders, I think it does.
Do you think he will meet with Sanders?
I think so. I mean, I have not. I have not done the latest round of checking.
Announced, but
it's hard.
If that happens, it'll certainly be worthwhile. But I'm not sure that's going to happen. But it is a recognition of Bernie Sanders as on income inequality. He's a legitimate spokesperson on that issue. He's the real deal on that issue, and that's got to count for something. Annie Linsky here with us. What fun talking about 2016. We haven't even reached the Republican side yet. Oh boy! When we come back, jump in if you want. 860. You know the number. I don't, obviously.
866-55, your name. 866-55-PRESS.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
You taught him how to hit a baseball. Just like that. Say hi. How to hit a receiver. The strike zone. The net. You taught him how to hit the upper corner. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Go to bostonglobe.com and follow the work of the national political reporter, Annie Linsky, here with us in studio. So it looks like on the Republican side in New York that Ted Cruz is just saying, all right, it's yours, Donnie. You can have it, huh?
Yeah, his best bet would be trying to keep the tally under 50% for Trump, but that doesn't seem to be happening. I mean, by keeping it under 50%, there are some statewide delegates that would be denied Trump. And Cruz, as your listeners, I'm sure, are well aware, is just so brilliantly playing this delegate game. I mean, they are packed full of some of the smartest Republican strategists in the country, and I'm sure they will all make a lot of money with it.
It's a little slimy, but those are the rules.
These are the rules.
Those are the rules.
I mean, I don't know if it is slimy. Like, one thing you kind of learn by watching this process up so closely is, first of all, these are the primary processes. Yeah. So these are the party rules, and it's not really a democracy in the way that we're all taught in middle school and high school.
That's the real thing.
I want to go back to my middle school teacher and like strangle her.
You lied. You lied to us.
It's like, this is what a caucus looks like, and it's not really a ballot box always. Sometimes it's a caucus where you need to stand up in front of your boss and say who you're voting for.
Yeah. Right.
You know, I mean, it's just like, you know, the rules
and
are.
Those rules have been around for a long time.
That's right.
And Ted Cruz went into every state, figured out what the rules are, and is playing by the rules.
Yeah.
And here's Donnie, who thinks that he can get away with just bluster, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's going to follow him.
Do we believe that if Donald Trump had spotted these rules and had thought far enough ahead to see these rules, that he would not have used them to his favor?
Yeah.
Of course not. Right? Like, he's mad that Ted Cruz saw this and he didn't. But I think that speaks to sort of the mess of Trump's campaign.
I think it's also a little bit about like revenge of the political class here. I mean, you know that in this town, there's so many people who just look at analytics and data, and the Trump candidacy has sort of like thrown all of that life's work and career out the window of like, maybe none of it matters. And I think this Cruz insurgency is sort of empowering them again, that like, hey, this thing we've done for our entire lives, like is kind of useful, and knowing things does kind of matter, and it is, you know, you understand the rules, you do have an advantage.
All right. So the big announcement yesterday, Jamie, was from Paul Ryan here. Special news conference, called at the last minute yesterday afternoon. Paul Ryan saying here's what he thinks should happen at the convention.
If no candidate has a majority on the first ballot, I believe that you should only choose from a person who has actually participated in the primary. Count me out.
Do you believe him?
Yes, I do.
You do?
I do. Just because
you gullible reporter.
Well, you know, look, if I'm wrong, it will be a much more exciting general election, that's for sure. But, I mean, think about it from Paul Ryan's perspective. I just don't see what he really gains here. Maybe he becomes the nominee, but that's not a sure bet. I mean, this Republican Party has really eaten the establishment, one candidate after another. Why they wouldn't eat him is beyond. You know, he is one of the last of the young guns that's still standing, of that book, The Young Guns.
Yeah.
And he has a target on his back. The same people who have just gobbled up Bush and Rubio, et cetera, are out for him too. But he is in a fantastic place to lead the Republican Party, no matter what happens in the fall. And I don't know why I'd give that up. You know, I don't know why I'd give that up. I mean, let's say Hillary has the White House and probably the Republicans lose the Senate, so Democrats are in charge of the Senate. You know, I think that's a reasonable scenario. He's in a fantastic position. He's the top Republican in the country at that point. And even if a Trump or a Cruz wins, he's still one of the ideological leaders of the party. And I just don't know. He's young. He's in his young 40s. I don't know why I
agree with all of that, but at the same time, he also is giving mixed signals, right? Like, he's saying he doesn't want to run, and then he's putting out this ad that's a campaign ad, right? And giving this speech.
They're good campaign ads.
They are. They really are.
Good.
If he was running for president, they'd be very effective.
Yeah, I mean,
Mark my words, he's running for president. And the other thing is, he's not going to be the speaker next year either, because Democrats are going to take back the House.
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
Annie Litsky. We'll let you go back on the campaign trail.
Bold predictions.
We'll probably see you in New York.
Definitely.
All right. I'll be back with today's parting shot.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you, the last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue. dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you would have hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, you heard about the Pentagon Papers and more recently the Panama Papers. The latest are the 9/11 papers. Yeah, those 28 pages to be exact from the Congressional Committee on September 11, which have never been released to the public because reportedly they contain information that the Saudi Arabian government actually helped 15 of the 19 terrorists on September 11. Well, President Obama promised the families of the 9/11 victims he would release those pages, and now is the time to do it, even if it proves embarrassing to the Saudi royal family. That's my parting shot for today, folks. Have a great Wednesday. Come back tomorrow. Igor Volsky,
This
guest
is
hosting.
the Bill Press
See you tomorrow.
Show.